The private dining room at Le Blanc restaurant fell silent as Hyunwoo placed his chopsticks deliberately across his plate. The soft classical music playing in the background did nothing to soften the tension that had been building throughout the evening. Haejin sat across from him, her engagement ring catching the light from the crystal chandelier above. She had noticed his unusual behavior throughout dinner, the way he barely touched his food, how he kept checking his phone, and most notably, how he avoided meeting her eyes. And if you want a handsome CEO in your life and love videos like this, subscribe to our channel to have 10 years of luck in your life. I can't go through with the wedding, Hyunwoo announced, his voice steady and clinical, befitting his profession as a lawyer. The words hit Haejin like physical blows. She sat perfectly still, her hand frozen mid-reach for her water glass. The restaurant's elegant atmosphere, which had seemed so perfect for their 6-month wedding anniversary celebration, now felt suffocating. What do you mean? Haejin managed to ask, though she already understood perfectly well. Her fingers instinctively touched the engagement ring she had worn for the past year, the metal suddenly cold against her skin. Hyunwoo maintained his composure, speaking as if delivering a closing argument in court. I've been thinking about this for weeks. Our lives are moving in different directions. Your focus on your design career, my partnership track at the firm, they're incompatible. He paused, checking his watch. I've already moved my things out of the apartment. The revelation that he had planned this so methodically made Haejin's stomach turn. While she had been sketching wedding dresses and coordinating with vendors, he had been orchestrating their separation. The realization made her dizzy. Haejin excused herself from the table, walking with measured steps to the restaurant's bathroom. Once inside, she gripped the marble countertop, staring at her reflection in the mirror. Her carefully applied makeup remained perfect, but her eyes held a vacant expression she didn't recognize. The following morning, Haejin found herself in her design studio, surrounded by the half-finished sketches and fabric swatches that represented her dreams. The space, normally her sanctuary, felt foreign and hostile. Her wedding dress designs, carefully pinned to the inspiration board, seemed to mock her current reality. She moved through the studio mechanically, gathering the wedding-related sketches into a pile. Each drawing represented hours of work, dreams, and plans, all now irrelevant. Her hands shook as she reached for the last sketch, a design she had created specifically for her own wedding day. The phone on her desk buzzed continuously with messages from concerned friends and family, but she ignored them all. Instead, she focused on reviewing her portfolio of non-bridal designs. Her recent collection, inspired by traditional Korean elements fused with modern aesthetics, represented years of work. She questioned whether she should continue pursuing her dreams of becoming a recognized designer when she couldn't even maintain her personal life. As Haejin contemplated her future, across town at the Seoul Fashion Exhibition Center, Doon stood observing her from afar. He had noticed her the moment she entered the exhibition hall, not just because of her elegant appearance, but because of the way she carried herself, like someone carrying an invisible weight. Doon watched as she moved from display to display, noting how she lingered over the technological innovations in fabric development. Her expressions shifted between professional interest and personal pain, a combination that intrigued him. As CEO of one of Korea's leading tech fashion companies, he recognized the potential in her designs displayed in the Emerging Designers section. What caught his attention most was the MO. Meant she stopped in front of a wedding dress display. Her reflection in the glass showed a flash of raw emotion before she quickly composed herself. Doon had built his business empire by recognizing opportunities, and in Haejin's vulnerability, he saw something more than just business potential. He observed her taking notes in a small sketchbook, her hand moving quickly across the page. Even from a distance, he could see the talent in her quick sketches. The way she analyzed each piece, considering both aesthetic and practical elements, aligned perfectly with his vision for the future of fashion technology. The exhibition crowd moved around them, but Doon remained focused on Haejin. He noticed how other attendees seemed drawn to her designs, yet she appeared oblivious to their admiration. Her focus remained entirely on her work, using it as a shield against whatever personal storms she was weathering. As the exhibition began to wind down, Daeun made his decision. He had been looking for a partner who could bring both creativity and resilience to his newest venture. In Haejin, he saw someone who possessed not just talent, but the kind of determination that came from facing personal adversity. Her vulnerability, rather than being a weakness, could be transformed into strength with the right opportunity. Daeun waited until the exhibition hall had nearly emptied before approaching Haejin. She stood before her own display, making final adjustments to the arrangement of her design sketches. The fluorescent lights cast long shadows across the polished floor as he walked toward her, his footsteps echoing in the near-empty space. "Your integration of traditional elements with modern silhouettes is fascinating," he said, standing beside her. Haejin turned, startled by the sudden company. She recognized him immediately. Daeun's reputation in the fashion tech industry preceded him. "I particularly appreciate how you've considered the practical applications of smart fabrics in traditional designs." Haejin straightened, automatically shifting into her professional demeanor. "Thank you, Mr. Park. I've followed your company's innovations in textile technology with great interest." She gestured toward one of her sketches. "This design actually incorporates your company's temperature-regulating fabric concept." Daeun moved closer to examine the sketch, she indicated. "You've understood the technology's potential better than most established designers." He turned to face her directly. "That's exactly why I'd like to propose a partnership." The word partnership hung in the air between them. Haejin's hand tightened around her portfolio. "Partnership?" she repeated, careful to keep her voice neutral despite her surprise. "I need someone who can bridge the gap between technology and wearable fashion," Daeun explained, his tone businesslike but warm. "Someone who understands both the practical and aesthetic elements. Your work shows that potential." He paused, studying her reaction. "Would you be interested in discussing this over coffee?" Haejin hesitated, her mind racing through the implications. The opportunity was extraordinary. Daeun's company, Park Technologies, was at the forefront of fashion innovation. Yet the timing felt almost too perfect, coming just as her personal life had imploded. "I appreciate the offer," she began carefully, "but I should mention that I'm in the middle of some personal changes. I wouldn't want that to affect any professional arrangements." Daeun's expression showed understanding rather than judgment. Personal challenges often drive professional innovation. "I'm not looking for someone who's never faced setbacks, Ms. Kim. I'm looking for someone who knows how to transform them into opportunities." The words struck a chord with Haejin. After a moment's consideration, she nodded. Coffee would be acceptable. She found herself adding, "Though I have questions about what his partnership would entail." They agreed to meet the following afternoon at a quiet cafe in the Gangnam district. The venue, with its modern industrial design and private seating areas, provided the perfect setting for their discussion. Haejin arrived early, choosing a corner table that offered both privacy and a view of the street. Daeun arrived precisely on time, carrying a leather portfolio similar to her own. After ordering their drinks, an Americano for him, green tea for her, they began to discuss their respective visions for the future of fashion. "The industry is at a crossroads," Daeun explained, opening his portfolio to reveal market analysis charts. "Traditional fashion houses resist technological integration, while tech companies fail to understand the importance of design aesthetics. We need someone who can speak both languages." As they talked, Haejin found herself gradually relaxing. Daeun's approach was refreshingly direct, free from the condescension she often encountered in the industry. He listened intently to her ideas, asking thoughtful questions that demonstrated genuine interest in her perspective. The conversation naturally shifted to their backgrounds. Daeun spoke of his early struggles to establish his company, facing skepticism from both the tech and fashion sectors. They said combining the two industries was impossible, he recalled, a slight smile playing at the corners of his mouth. Now they're all trying to catch up. Haejin found herself sharing more than she intended about her own journey. She told him about her traditional family's opposition to her career choice, her determination to prove herself in the industry, and even touched briefly on her recent personal setback, though she kept the details vague. "Resilience," Daeun noted, is as important as talent in this industry. You seem to possess both. He pulled out a formal proposal document from his portfolio. This outlines the terms of the partnership I'm suggesting. Take your time to review it. I believe we could create something revolutionary together. Haene accepted the document, her fingers brushing against the heavy paper. Despite her lingering insecurity, she felt a spark of excitement she hadn't experienced since before Hyunwoo's announcement. The possibility of channeling her pain into something productive appealed to her practical nature. "I'll need a few days to consider this properly," she said, maintaining her professional composure despite her inner turmoil. This isn't a decision to be made lightly.
Daí eu nodded approvingly.
Of course. A careful approach to important decisions is another quality I admire. Take the time you need. He stood to leave, but paused. "Ms. Kim, regardless of your decision, I want you to know that your talent is evident. Don't let anyone convince you otherwise." As she watched him leave the cafe, Haene realized she had spent 2 hours discussing future possibilities without once thinking about her canceled wedding. The proposal in her hands represented more than just a business opportunity. It offered a chance to reclaim her narrative, to transform her story from one of abandonment to one of emergence. The trendy cafe in Apgujeong bustled with its usual weekend crowd as Haene sat across from Min Seo, her friend of 10 years. Steam rose from their untouched lattes while Min Seo scrolled through her phone, pulling up articles about Park Do-eun and his company. The afternoon sun filtered through the large windows, casting a warm glow that contrasted with the growing tension in their conversation. "Have you actually researched him?" Min Seo asked, sliding her phone across the table. The screen displayed a business article from 3 years ago. Park Do-eun has a history of taking advantage of smaller companies. Look at what happened with JT Design House. Her perfectly manicured nail tapped the screen emphatically. Haene glanced at the article, which detailed a failed partnership between Park Technologies and a small design firm. That was years ago, and the article says the partnership dissolved due to creative differences. She pushed the phone back toward Min Seo, trying to maintain her composure. Min Seo leaned forward, her voice dropping to a concerned whisper. "Creative differences? That's corporate speak for him, pushing them out once he got what he wanted. The founder had to relocate to Singapore to rebuild her career." She stirred her latte absently, the spoon clinking against the ceramic. "I just don't want to see you get hurt again. You're vulnerable right now, and men like Park Do-eun know how to spot that." The words stung more than Haene wanted to admit. She had spent the past week reviewing Do-eun's proposal, impressed by its thoroughness and the opportunities it presented. This is different. He's offering a legitimate partnership with clear terms and protections. Of course he is. He's not amateur enough to make his moves obvious. Min Seo reached across the table, placing her hand over Haene's. "Think about it. Why would he approach you now, right after your engagement ended? He's probably been watching, waiting for the perfect moment to swoop in." Across the city, in the gleaming headquarters of Park Technologies, Do-eun faced his own battle. He stood at the floor-to-ceiling windows of his office, phone pressed to his ear, listening to his former business partner, Young Tae-won, make thinly veiled threats. "Your new smart fabric line won't make it to market," Tae-won's voice crackled through the speaker. "I still have friends on the certification board. One suggestion about potential safety concerns, and they'll delay approval indefinitely." Do-eun's reflection in the window remained impassive. "Is that why you called, Tae-won? To remind me how petty you can be?" He turned away from the window, walking to his desk where Haene's portfolio lay open. "Your threats won't work anymore. Times have changed." "Have they?" Tae-won's laugh held no humor. "You're still the same opportunist who built his empire on other people's ideas. Does your new designer know about your history? About what really happened with Jessica from JT Design?" Do-eun's hand tightened on the phone. "Leave Ms. Kim out of this. She's talented and has nothing to do with our past." He paused, controlling his anger. "And we both know what really happened with Jessica. Your version of events won't hold up to scrutiny." "Maybe not, but doubt is a powerful thing, isn't it? Especially when someone's trust is already fragile." The threat in Tae-won's voice was clear. "End this partnership now, or I'll make sure she learns everything, my version of course. After ending the call, Doon sat heavily in his chair, studying Haejeon's designs spread across his desk. Her integration of technology with traditional elements showed remarkable insight. The partnership could revolutionize the industry, but Taewon's threats complicated everything. Meanwhile, back at the cafe, Min Seo continued her campaign of doubt. I heard from my cousin in the industry that Park Do-eun's company is struggling. Their last 3 products failed to get safety certification. He's desperate for a win. She pulled up another article on her phone.
See?
Their stock dropped 15% last quarter. Haejeon felt her confidence wavering. She had been so focused on the opportunity that she hadn't considered the company's recent performance. Every company has setbacks, she argued, but her voice lacked conviction. True, but why risk your career on someone else's comeback attempt? Min Seo signaled for the check. Just promise me you'll dig deeper before signing anything. Sometimes opportunities that look too good to be true are exactly that. The seeds of doubt planted by Min Seo took root in Haejeon's mind as she walked home. She found herself questioning every interaction with Do-eun, analyzing his words for hidden meanings. The partnership proposal, which had seemed so clear and promising, now felt laden with potential pitfalls. In his office, Do-eun reviewed the partnership agreement one more time. He had been careful to make it equitable, ensuring Haejeon would retain rights to her designs while gaining access to his company's resources. But Taewon's threats loomed over everything. If the truth about his past came out the wrong way, it could destroy not just the partnership but Haejeon's trust in him completely. The afternoon sun cast long shadows across his desk as he considered his options. He could withdraw the offer, protecting Haejeon from becoming a target in his ongoing war with Taewon. But doing so would mean losing perhaps his only chance to revolutionize the industry, and though he hesitated to admit it, his growing connection with someone who seemed to understand his vision perfectly. Do-eun reached for his phone, then stopped. Warning Haejeon about Taewon might protect her, but it could also frighten her away. The weight of his past decisions pressed down on him as he realized there might be no way to pursue this partnership without risking everything, including the trust of someone he was beginning to care about more than he'd expected. The grand ballroom of the Four Seasons Seoul sparkled with anticipation as Park Technologies prepared to unveil its revolutionary smart fabric line. Crystal chandeliers cast a warm glow over the gathered elite of Korea's fashion and technology industries. Haejeon stood near the entrance, wearing a dress she had designed specifically for the evening, a sophisticated black creation incorporating subtle elements of Do-eun's smart fabric technology. Security personnel with earpieces maintained a watchful presence, while photographers jockeyed for position near the main stage. The air hummed with conversation and speculation about the evening's announcements. Haejeon observed all of this with a mixture of excitement and apprehension, aware that this event marked her first public appearance alongside Do-eun. Do-eun appeared at her side, his presence commanding yet somehow intimate in the crowded space. "The prototype displays are ready," he said quietly, placing a gentle hand at the small of her back. "Would you like to see them before the presentation?" His touch sent an unexpected warmth through her, despite the lingering doubts Min Seo had planted in her mind. They made their way through the crowd, stopping occasionally to exchange greetings with industry figures. Haejeon noticed how Do-eun naturally shielded her from the more aggressive photographers, his body language protective without being possessive. At the technology showcase area, several mannequins displayed their collaborative designs, each incorporating different aspects of the smart fabric technology. "Your vision brought these to life," Do-eun said, gesturing to a particularly striking evening gown that changed colors subtly with temperature variations. The certification board was impressed by how you maintain the fabric's natural drape while incorporating the tech elements. He spoke with genuine admiration, his eyes reflecting the shifting colors of the display. The moment was interrupted by the arrival of the event coordinator, who needed Do-eun's approval for last-minute presentation details. "Save me a dance?" he asked Haejeon before following the coordinator. She nodded, watching him disappear into the crowd, trying to reconcile this attentive partner with the manipulator Min Seo had described. As the evening progressed, Do-eun delivered his keynote presentation, announcing Park Technologies' new line of smart fabrics. He specifically highlighted Haejeon's contributions, calling her forward to demonstrate how the technology integrated seamlessly with high-end fashion design. The audience responded with genuine enthusiasm, and Haejeon felt a surge of pride in their joint achievement. During the following reception, Doon found her again, this time extending his hand as the orchestra began playing a waltz. "I believe you promised me a dance," he said, his smile reaching his eyes. Haejeon accepted, allowing him to lead her onto the dance floor. Other couples joined them, but Haejeon barely noticed them, focused instead on how naturally they moved together. "The response has been overwhelming," Doon said as they danced. "3 major fashion houses have already expressed interest in licensing the technology." His hand was warm against hers, his leading confident but gentle. "We make a good team, Haejeon." The use of her first name didn't escape her notice. It felt natural, though, as if they'd crossed some invisible boundary during the evening's success. "We do," she agreed, surprising herself with how much she meant it. The doubts that had plagued her earlier seemed to fade in the reality of their accomplishment. However, the moment of connection was shattered when Haejeon, stepping away to get a drink, overheard a conversation from behind a decorative pillar. She recognized Doon's voice immediately, though his tone was different, tense and defensive. "You can't do this tonight, Taewon," Doon was saying. "The certification is already approved. It's over." There was a pause, and Haejeon found herself holding her breath. The past needs to stay in the past. She has nothing to do with what happened before. A second voice, sharp with anger, responded. "Does she know you're using her the same way you used Jessica? A fresh face to rebuild your reputation while you take control of her innovations." The words struck Haejeon like physical blows, echoing Minaseo's warnings. "That's not true, and you know it," Doon replied, but Haejeon had already stepped back, her heel catching on the marble floor with a click that seemed to echo in her ears. She turned quickly, nearly colliding with a waiter, and made her way toward the terrace, needing air and space to think. The cool evening air did little to calm her racing thoughts. The conversation replayed in her mind, mixing with Minaseo's warnings and her own observations. Doon had been nothing but supportive and transparent in their dealings, yet the other man's words suggested a pattern she couldn't ignore. From the terrace, Haejeon could see the ballroom through the floor-to-ceiling windows. Doon was searching the crowd, probably looking for her. The sight of him, elegant and composed, made her heart ache with uncertainty. She watched as he politely excused himself from conversations, his eyes scanning the room with increasing concern. The success of their collaboration was undeniable. The interested fashion houses, the approved certification, the seamless integration of their expertise. But now everything felt tainted by suspicion. Had he orchestrated it all, playing on her vulnerability after Hyunwoo's abandonment? Was she repeating the same mistake of trusting too easily, too completely? Doon finally spotted her on the terrace and started making his way toward her. Haejeon straightened her spine, preparing herself for the conversation to come, knowing that her response to his explanation would determine not just their professional future, but also the personal connection that had been growing between them. Doon found Haejeon on the terrace, her silhouette stark against the Seoul cityscape. The evening air carried the faint scent of rain, and distant thunder rumbled, matching the tension of the moment. He approached carefully, noting how she gripped the terrace railing, her knuckles white with tension. "I heard everything," Haejeon said before he could speak, her voice steady despite her obvious distress. "Your conversation with Taewon." She turned to face him, her expression a complex mixture of anger and hurt. "Who is Jessica, and what really happened with JT Design House?" Doon stopped several feet away, recognizing the critical nature of this moment. The success of their presentation inside the ballroom now seemed hollow compared to the weight of this confrontation. "It's complicated," he began, but Haejeon cut him off with a sharp gesture. "Then uncomplicate it," she demanded. "I've had enough of half-truths and careful words. Minaseo warned me about your pattern of using designers, but I defended you. I believed in our partnership." Her voice cracked slightly on the last word. Was she right? Am I just another Jessica? The mention of Minasio's name made Daeun's expression tighten momentarily. No, he said firmly. You're not another Jessica, and what Minasio thinks she knows about that situation is far from the truth. He took a step closer, but Haejin maintained her distance. Jessica was my partner at JT Design House, both in business and personally. That's what made her betrayal so damaging. Haejin's eyes widened slightly at this revelation. Betrayal? The article said you pushed her out of her own company. The doubt in her voice was painful to hear, but Daeun forced himself to continue. Jessica sold our proprietary technology to competitors while negotiating a separate deal behind my back, he explained, his professional composure cracking slightly at the memory. When I confronted her, she threatened to go public with false accusations about stolen designs. The dissolution of our partnership was the only way to prevent a scandal that would have destroyed both our reputations. Thunder crackled closer now, and the first drops of rain began to fall. Neither of them moved to go inside. Why didn't you tell me this before? Haejin asked, her voice softer but no less intense. Why let me hear it from Taewon of all people? Because I wanted our partnership to stand on its own merits, Daeun replied, running a hand through his hair in frustration. Every time I've tried to explain what happened with Jessica, it sounds like excuses or manipulation. I thought if I could prove myself through actions rather than words. That's not your decision to make, Haejin interrupted. I'm not some fragile creation that needs to be protected from the truth. I've already had one man decide what I should or should know about my own life. The reference to Hyunwoo hung in the air between them. The rain fell harder now, but Haejin remained unmoved. I need time, she said finally, her designer dress beginning to show dark spots from the rainfall. Time and space to think about everything without your influence or Minasio's warnings or anyone else's opinions clouding my judgment. Daeun felt the familiar urge to protect, to explain, to fix the situation, but he forced himself to remain still. I understand, he said quietly. The partnership agreement includes a clause allowing you to step back without penalties. Use it if you need to. Haejin nodded once, sharply, then moved past him toward the ballroom doors. She paused with her hand on the handle. The worst part is, I was starting to trust you completely, she said without turning around. I was starting to think that maybe Hyunwoo's betrayal had led me to something better, something real. Daeun watched her disappear into the crowded ballroom, unable to follow. The rain soaked through his expensive suit, but he barely noticed. Inside, the successful launch of their technology continued without them, their personal drama hidden from the celebrating crowd. The following days passed in a blur of missed calls and unanswered messages. Haejin threw herself into her work, spending long hours at her studio, reviewing every aspect of her recent designs. She examined each piece that incorporated Daeun's technology, searching for signs that she had compromised her artistic vision in their collaboration. To her frustration, she found none. Every design represented a true fusion of their expertise, each piece stronger for their combined input. This realization only made her emotional turmoil more difficult to bear. The work itself validated their partnership, even as trust issues threatened to destroy it. Daeun respected her request for space, though it clearly cost him. He directed all business communication through proper channels, maintaining professional distance while ensuring their joint projects didn't suffer. His restraint only confused Haejin further. It either proved his respect for her autonomy or demonstrated his skill at manipulation. Late one evening, as Haejin prepared to leave her studio, she found herself staring at their first collaborative design. The piece that had started everything, now standing as a symbol of what they'd achieved together and what they stood to lose. The question that had been haunting her finally crystallized. Was protecting herself from potential betrayal worth sacrificing what could be the most significant partnership of her career? The answer, when it came, surprised her with its clarity. She didn't want to live in fear of being hurt again. More importantly, she didn't want to let Hyunwoo's betrayal dictate her future choices. But she also couldn't continue with Daeun without complete honesty between them. That night, Haejin made her decision. She would focus on her career and personal growth, independent of both Daeun's influence and Minaseo's warnings. The path forward would be challenging, but it would be her choice, her journey, guided by her own judgment rather than her fears or others' expectations. The weeks following the gala transformed Haene's studio into a sanctuary of creativity and self-discovery. Afternoon sunlight streamed through the large windows, illuminating her workspace, where dozens of new designs took shape. Minaseo had become a constant presence, bringing coffee and encouragement as Haene channeled her emotional turmoil into her work. "These designs are different," Minaseo observed one afternoon, examining a series of sketches spread across Haene's drafting table. "There's something bolder about them." She picked up one particular drawing, a modern interpretation of traditional hanbok that incorporated subtle technological elements. Though Haene had stepped back from her partnership with Daeun, she hadn't abandoned the knowledge she'd gained about fashion technology. "I'm not holding back anymore," Haene explained, adjusting the drape of fabric on a nearby mannequin. "Before, I was always designing with someone else's expectations in mind, my family's, Hyunwoo's, even Daeun's." She stepped back to assess her work, satisfaction evident in her expression. "Now I'm creating exactly what I envision, without compromise." Minaseo placed a supportive hand on Haene's shoulder. "This is what I've been trying to tell you. You don't need a man's validation to succeed." She moved to the window, gazing out at the Seoul skyline. "Speaking of which, have you heard about the International Design Innovation Competition? The deadline for submissions is next month." Haene looked up from her work, interest piqued. The competition was well known for launching careers in the fashion industry. "I've heard of it, but I never thought I was ready." She walked over to join Minaseo at the window, considering the possibility. "You're more than ready," Minaseo insisted, pulling up the competition details on her tablet. "The theme this year is Tradition Meets Innovation. It's perfect for your current direction." She scrolled through the requirements, her enthusiasm growing. The grand prize includes a sponsored show at Paris Fashion Week. The opportunity seemed almost too perfect, but Haene found herself drawn to the challenge. She spent the next few days reviewing her portfolio, selecting pieces that best represented her evolution as a designer. Minaseo helped her organize the submission, offering suggestions and support throughout the process. "Your collection tells a story," Minaseo said as they finalized the portfolio. "It shows your journey from traditional design to innovative fusion." She paused, checking her phone briefly before continuing. "Though you might want to minimize references to the smart fabric technology. We wouldn't want anyone thinking you're riding on Park Technology's reputation." The suggestion gave Haene pause. "The technology is part of my development as a designer. Removing it would feel dishonest." She studied the designs in question, noting how seamlessly they integrated both traditional elements and technological innovation. Minaseo's expression tightened slightly. "I'm just thinking about the judge's perspective. They're looking for original talent, not corporate influence." She moved closer, lowering her voice conspiratorially. "Besides, I heard through industry contacts that Park Technologies might be facing some regulatory issues. You don't want your work associated with potential controversy." Haene turned to face her friend directly. "What kind of regulatory issues?" The familiar sense of unease that had plagued her relationship with Daeun began to surface again. "Nothing specific," Minaseo replied quickly, perhaps too quickly. "Just rumors about certification standards and testing protocols. The usual corporate drama." She waved her hand dismissively. "The point is, your work stands on its own. You don't need their technology to make it exceptional." Later that evening, alone in her studio, Haene reviewed her competition submission one final time. Her gaze lingered on the designs that incorporated smart fabric elements. Despite Minaseo's warnings, these pieces represented some of her strongest work. They demonstrated not just creativity, but also a deep understanding of fashion's future direction. The sun had set, casting long shadows across her workspace, when Haene made her decision. She would submit her portfolio exactly as it was, including the technological elements. If she was going to succeed, it would be on the strength of her complete vision, not a carefully edited version of her work. What Haejin didn't know was that across the city, in a dimly lit office, Minasio sat at her desk, making a very different kind of decision. Her computer screen displayed a series of emails between her and various competition officials. The content of these messages would have shocked Haejin: detailed discussions about influencing the judging process, carefully worded suggestions about certain participant submissions. Minasio's phone buzzed with a message from an unknown number. "Everything proceeding as planned? Remember our agreement." She quickly deleted the message, but not before responding with a simple yes. The weight of her actions settled uncomfortably in her stomach, but she pushed the feeling aside. In her mind, she was protecting Haejin, guiding her friend toward independence and success, even if her methods were questionable. Back in her studio, Haejin finally completed her competition entry. The portfolio represented everything she had become: her technical skill, her innovative vision, and most importantly, her newfound confidence. She had no way of knowing that her participation in the competition was about to become the catalyst for revelations that would shake her trust in everyone around her, including the friend who had seemed to be her strongest supporter during her darkest times. The preliminary round of the International Design Innovation Competition brought unprecedented attention to Haejin's work. Her fusion of traditional Korean elements with cutting-edge technology captured the judges' interest, earning her a place among the top 10 finalists. However, this success also made her a target for forces working in the shadows. The first sign of trouble came during the semi-final exhibition. Haejin arrived early to set up her display, only to discover that someone had accessed her workspace overnight. Nothing was obvious, damaged, but subtle changes had been made to her premiere piece. The smart fabric connectivity had been disabled, making the garment appear to be a simple traditional design rather than the innovative fusion it represented. Technical difficulties are common with experimental technology, Minasio commented when Haejin called her in distress. "This is exactly why I suggested focusing on traditional elements. The judges won't be impressed by malfunctioning displays." Her tone carried a hint of satisfaction that Haejin, in her panic, failed to notice. As Haejin worked frantically to restore the garment's functionality, whispers began circulating among the other competitors. Minasio had been busy spreading carefully crafted rumors about Haejin's professional capabilities. "I heard she's just riding on Park Technology's reputation," one designer remarked to another within Haejin's earshot. "The technology isn't even her work, she's just a front for their marketing department." The rumors gained traction quickly. Judges who had previously shown enthusiasm for Haejin's work now approached her displays with skepticism. Questions about her design process became increasingly pointed, focusing on her relationship with Park Technologies rather than her creative vision. Doon learned of the situation through industry contacts who had attended the exhibition. He sat in his office late one evening, reviewing security footage from the exhibition hall that showed Minasio entering Haejin's display area after hours. The revelation of Minasio's involvement triggered memories of past betrayals, but this time, he was determined to handle the situation differently. Rather than confronting Minasio directly, Doon began gathering evidence. He traced the source of the rumors, documenting each instance of sabotage. His investigation revealed a pattern that extended beyond simple jealousy. Minasio's actions appeared to be coordinated with someone who had a vested interest in seeing both Haejin and Park Technologies fail. The situation came to a head during a crucial portfolio review session. Minasio had arranged for several influential critics to evaluate Haejin's work, presenting it as a supportive gesture. However, Doon discovered that these critics had received detailed briefings aimed at discrediting Haejin's innovative approaches. Doon chose this moment to intervene. He arrived at the review session unannounced, carrying a comprehensive dossier that demonstrated the authenticity and originality of Haejin's work. The documentation included development timelines, original sketches, and technical specifications that proved her designs predated her association with Park Technologies. Minasio's composure cracked when she saw Doon enter the room. "This is a closed session," she announced, attempting to maintain control of the situation. Mr. Park wasn't invited to participate in the review. "I'm not here to participate," Doon replied calmly, making eye contact with each critic in turn. I'm here to ensure that Miss Kim's work is evaluated fairly, without external influence or preconceived biases. He placed the dossier on the table, his gesture deliberate and confident. I believe you'll find this information relevant to your assessment. The atmosphere in the room shifted as the critics began reviewing the documentation. Minasio's carefully constructed narrative began to unravel. The technical specifications clearly showed that Haene's integration of smart fabric technology represented original innovation rather than corporate exploitation. Haene, who had been standing quietly by her displays, watched the scene unfold with growing understanding. The realization that Daeun had been protecting her work while respecting her need for independence struck her deeply. Unlike Hyunwoo's controlling behavior or Minasio's manipulative support, Daeun's actions demonstrated genuine respect for her capability. Minasio made one final attempt to maintain her influence. Haene, he's trying to control your career just like before. Don't let him manipulate this opportunity away from you. Her voice carried a desperate edge that revealed more than she intended. However, Haene remained focused on the documentation Daeun had provided. Each page showed not just the development of her designs, but also the careful way Daeun had documented her independent contributions to their joint projects. He hadn't just protected her work, he had ensured that her creative ownership was undeniable. The review session ended with a decisive shift in perception. The critics' evaluation focused on the technical and artistic merits of Haene's work, acknowledging her innovative vision without questioning its authenticity. Minasio left the room quickly, avoiding eye contact with anyone, especially Haene. As the critics filed out, Haene found herself alone with Daeun for the first time since the gala. The silence between them held questions and realizations that neither was quite ready to address. Finally, Haene spoke, her voice quiet but firm. You've been watching out for me all this time, haven't you?
Dajeon met her gazeteciydiri.
I learned from my mistakes with Jessica. Sometimes protecting someone means stepping back and letting them fight their own battles. But it also means being ready to provide support when the fight isn't fair. He moved toward the door, then paused. Your work deserves to be judged on its merits, nothing else. The exchange left Haene with a new perspective on both Daeun and Minasio. She began to see how Minasio's apparent support had actually been a subtle form of control, while Daeun's distance had been a form of respect. The realization prompted her to question everything that had happened since her broken engagement, leading her toward a truth that would soon reshape all her relationships. The annual Seoul Design Network conference created an unexpected opportunity for Haene and Daeun to reconnect. The prestigious event, held in the modern glass and steel structure of the COEX Convention Center, brought together industry leaders from across Asia. Neither had planned to attend, yet both found themselves drawn to a panel discussion on the future of sustainable fashion technology. Haene noticed Daeun first, his tall figure distinctive among the crowd gathering for the networking session after the panel. The 3 weeks since the portfolio review had given her time to process everything she had learned about his actions and Minasio's betrayal. She watched as he navigated the room with practiced ease, noting how he deflected attention from a young designer who seemed overwhelmed by aggressive investors. Their eyes met across the room, and the busy convention center seemed to quiet around them. Daeun made his way toward her, stopping to speak briefly with others, but maintaining a clear trajectory. When he finally reached her, they stood in awkward silence before Haene gestured toward the rooftop garden area. The outdoor space offered privacy and a spectacular view of the Seoul skyline. Evening was approaching, and the city's lights were beginning to twinkle against the darkening sky. I've been thinking about everything that happened, Haene began, her hands gripping the railing. About Minasio's manipulation, your intervention, and most importantly, why I was so quick to believe the worst about you. Daeun stood beside her, maintaining a respectful distance. Fear can make us see threats in acts of kindness, he observed, especially when we've been hurt before. The words carried the weight of personal experience. It wasn't just about Hyunwoo, Haene continued, turning to face him. When Minasio started planting doubts about you, I latched onto them because they confirmed what I already believed, that success always comes with betrayal. She paused, gathering her thoughts. I never gave you the chance to explain about Jessica because I was afraid of being wrong about you. The honesty in her words prompted Dawoon to share his own truth. After what happened with Jessica, I became overly cautious about explaining my past. I thought if I just proved myself through actions, it would be enough. He shook his head slightly. I didn't realize that my silence was leaving room for others to create their own narratives. Their conversation was interrupted by the arrival of other conference attendees seeking the rooftop view. Dawoon suggested they continue their discussion over dinner at a nearby restaurant. The small, traditional establishment offered private dining rooms where they could speak freely. Over steaming bowls of kimchi jjigae, they began to unravel the complexities of their shared past. "Tell me about Jessica," Haene requested, her voice gentle but firm. "The full story this time." Dawoon set down his spoon, his expression serious. "Jessica was brilliant and ambitious, much like you. We built JT Design House together, combining her design vision with my technological innovations." He paused, collecting his memories. "What I didn't know was that she was working with Taewon behind my back, selling our technology to competitors while publicly claiming I was trying to push her out." "The same Taewon who confronted you at the gala?" Haene asked, pieces of the puzzle finally fitting together.
Yes.
He orchestrated the whole thing, using Jessica's design credentials to access our proprietary information while painting me as the corporate villain. Dawoon's voice carried old pain but no bitterness. "When I discovered the truth, Jessica had already fled to Singapore with the profits. Taewon's company released a similar technology 6 months later." Understanding dawned in Haene's eyes. "That's why you were so careful with our partnership agreement, ensuring my designs remain my property while protecting the technology." She reached across the table, hesitantly touching his hand. "You were trying to prevent history from repeating itself." "I wanted to protect you without controlling you," Dawoon admitted. "When Min SEO started spreading rumors, I recognized Taewon's tactics. But I also knew that stepping in too forcefully would only validate the accusations of manipulation." The conversation shifted to their current situation. Haeene shared her recent successes with the competition, including how the documentation Dawoon provided had silenced the critics. "Your support came without demands or expectations," she realized aloud. Unlike Min SEO's help, which always came with strings attached. As the evening progressed, they found themselves discussing future possibilities. The innovation competition had opened new doors for Haene's career, while Dawoon's company was preparing to launch an expanded line of smart fabrics. Their professional paths seemed destined to cross again. "I'm not the same person who canceled her wedding months ago," Haene said thoughtfully. "That experience, and everything that followed, taught me to trust my judgment rather than my fears."
Dae nodded in understanding.
"And I'm not the same person who let past betrayals dictate my actions. Sometimes protecting yourself means being willing to risk pain for something worthwhile." His words carried layers of meaning that resonated with both their professional and personal relationship. As they prepared to leave the restaurant, the air between them had shifted. The weight of misunderstandings and unspoken fears had lifted, replaced by a deeper understanding of each other's struggles and strengths. Walking together through the bustling streets of Seoul, they began to discuss collaboration ideas that merged their unique perspectives. "We could create something revolutionary," Dawoon suggested, his excitement evident as he described potential innovations. "Not just in fashion or technology, but in how these industries interact." Haeene found herself sharing his enthusiasm, adding her own ideas to the discussion. Yet beneath their professional planning lay a growing awareness of their personal connection, one built on mutual respect, shared experiences, and the wisdom gained from past mistakes. The collaborative workspace Haeene and Dawoon established became a testament to their combined vision. Located on the top floor of Park Technology's Research and Development Building, the studio merged the practical needs of a design atelier with the technical requirements of a technology lab. Natural light flooded the space through floor-to-ceiling windows, illuminating work tables where traditional fabric samples lay beside circuit-embedded textiles. Their first joint project after reconciliation aimed to revolutionize adaptive clothing. Haejin's understanding of traditional Korean craftsmanship merged seamlessly with Doon's technological innovations, creating garments that could respond to environmental changes while maintaining the elegant aesthetics of traditional design. The project represented more than just a business venture. It embodied their shared belief that innovation should enhance rather than replace cultural heritage. One morning, as they reviewed the latest prototypes, Haejin noticed something different in their dynamic. The professional boundaries they had carefully maintained began to blur as they worked side by side, their hands occasionally brushing as they adjusted fabric samples or examined circuit patterns. The creative energy between them had evolved into something more personal, though neither explicitly acknowledged the change. The responsive elements in the Jeoggery are perfectly integrated, Doon observed, examining the traditional Korean jacket that now incorporated their smart fabric technology. You've managed to preserve the traditional silhouette while adding functionality that feels natural rather than imposed. Haejin smiled, noting how he understood the importance of maintaining cultural integrity in their innovations. The technology serves the design, not the other way around, she explained, demonstrating how the fabric responded to temperature changes. That's what makes our collaboration different. We respect both elements equally. Their working relationship had developed a rhythm that drew attention within the industry. Fashion magazines began requesting interviews, intrigued by their unique approach to merging tradition with innovation. Technology publications praised their advancements in wearable tech that prioritized cultural significance alongside functionality. However, this success also attracted unwanted attention. Mina Seo, who had maintained a low profile since the competition incident, began monitoring their progress through industry contacts. She recognized that their partnership represented everything she had tried to prevent, not just professional success, but a deepening personal connection that threatened her influence over Haejin. The situation escalated when Mina Seo obtained access to their preliminary patent applications through her connections. She discovered that their innovation could revolutionize not just fashion, but entire industries related to smart textiles. The potential impact of their work far exceeded her initial expectations, making her previous attempts at sabotage seem amateur in comparison. One evening, as Haejin and Doon worked late finalizing designs for their upcoming presentation, they received an anonymous email containing sensitive details about their patent application. The message implied that their intellectual property could be compromised if they proceeded with their plans. "This has Mina Seo's signature," Doon said, analyzing the email's contents. "But she's never been this bold before. Something's different this time." He looked troubled, recognizing patterns from his past experience with Indu. "Strile espionage." Haejin agreed, studying the threatening message. "She's always been manipulative, but this crosses into criminal territory. What could make her take such a risk?" The question led them down a path of investigation that revealed a disturbing truth. Mina Seo's actions were being directed by someone with a much larger agenda. Through careful tracking of electronic communications, they discovered that Mina Seo had formed an alliance with Tae-won, Doon's former partner. Their collaboration went beyond simple sabotage. They planned to claim key elements of the smart fabric technology as their own, using Mina Seo's insider knowledge and Tae-won's industry connections to bypass patent protections. The revelation of this conspiracy brought Haejin and Doon closer together, both personally and professionally. They spent long hours strengthening their patent documentation and implementing additional security measures. During these intense work sessions, they found themselves sharing more personal stories, their shared challenge creating a deeper bond between them. "I should have seen through Mina Seo's friendship years ago," Haejin admitted one night as they reviewed security protocols. "She always positioned herself as my protector, but she was really ensuring I remained dependent on her guidance." Doon understood the pain of such betrayal all too well. "Manipulative people often disguise control as protection," he observed, his hand finding hers across the workstation. "The hardest part is learning to trust again afterward." Their physical proximity in that moment sparked an awareness that neither could ignore. The professional partnership that had brought them back together had evolved into something more profound, a connection built on mutual understanding, shared challenges, and genuine respect for each other's strengths. However, this moment of connection was interrupted by an urgent alert from their security system. Someone had attempted to access their secure server, targeting files containing their most recent innovations. The attack's sophistication suggested professional involvement, confirming their suspicions about Min SEO and Taewon's collaboration. As they worked to secure their data, Haejin and Daeun realized they faced a critical decision. They could either retreat from their plans to protect themselves from further attacks, or they could move forward, knowing that doing so would force a confrontation with those who sought to destroy them. The choice became clear as they looked at their work spread across the studio, the perfectly balanced fusion of tradition and innovation that represented not just their professional collaboration, but their personal journey together. They would not let fear of betrayal derail their vision again. What they didn't realize was that Min SEO had already set in motion events that would bring their past and present into direct conflict. She possessed one final piece of information, a secret about Daeun that she believed would destroy not just their partnership, but the trust they had worked so hard to rebuild.